On my wedding day, Ethan's family mocked my father. They laughed at his clothes, they made my mother cry, and Ethan, he was laughing too. So I walked up to the stage, picked up the microphone, and told them I owned 51% of their company, and now I was taking it all back. The Hamptons' wedding venue sparkled like something out of a magazine. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, white roses covered every surface, and the ocean breeze carried the sound of soft jazz across the private beach club. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it became the day everything changed. I stood near the stage in my custom Vera Wang gown, smiling at guests who kept telling me how perfect everything looked. But my eyes kept drifting to the back of the room where my parents sat. Dad was adjusting the sleeves of his rented tuxedo. It wasn't expensive, but it was clean and pressed. He had worked overtime for months as a truck driver just to afford the flight from Ohio to New York. Mom sat beside him in a simple navy dress she had bought on sale. Oh, she was a nurse who had taken extra shifts for years so I could chase my dreams. They both smiled proudly whenever they caught my eye, but I could see the discomfort on their faces. This wasn't their world. Ethan's family, on the other hand, belonged here completely. Old Southern money mixed with new tech millions. His father owned a luxury real estate development company that built multi-million-dollar condos in Miami, Aspen, and the Hamptons. His mother and sister moved through the crowd like royalty, air-kissing friends, and laughing loudly. I met Ethan 2 years ago at a charity gala. He was charming, attentive, and seemed different from the spoiled rich guys I had known. When he proposed, he told me, "My family's opinions don't matter. I choose you, Clara." I believed him, but from the first time I met his parents, and I felt the coldness, the polite smiles that never reached their eyes, the subtle comments, Ethan could have had anyone. Marriages in our circle are about alliances, not just love. Still, I hoped things would get better after the wedding. They didn't. Dinner service started and guests were escorted to their tables. The main table filled with Ethan's family, business partners, and high society friends. I waited for my parents to be guided forward, but instead, a waiter led them to a small, plain table near the service entrance, right beside the kitchen door. No flowers, no candles, just noise, heat, and the constant clatter of plates. My heart sank. Before I could react, Ethan's sister, Brooke, grabbed my arm for photos. "Come on, Clara, smile." By the time I broke free, my parents were already seated there. I walked straight to the back. Dad sat stiffly, trying to look unbothered. Mom's eyes were already glassy. "Mom, Dad, why are you sitting here?" I asked softly. Before they could answer, Ethan's mother appeared with a group of perfectly dressed women. "Oh, we thought they'd be more comfortable here," she said, with a sweet smile that felt like ice. "Less overwhelming for them." One of the women laughed lightly. "Did you see his jacket? It looks like it came from a thrift store." Another added, "And those shoes! Oh, honey, bless his heart." My father lowered his head slightly. Mom's hands started trembling as she tried to hold back tears. Then Brooke stepped closer, smirking. Honestly, I was worried he might sit at the main table and confuse the staff. You know, looking like that. Laughter erupted around them, soft at first, and then louder. Someone even said, "At least now he's closer to where people like him belong, near the help." My mother blinked rapidly as a tear finally slipped down her cheek. Dad reached for her hand, staying silent, always the strong one. I looked for Ethan. He was standing just a few feet away, watching everything. Our eyes met. I waited for him to speak up, to defend us, to stop this cruelty. Instead, his sister whispered something in his ear. Ethan smiled, then laughed, a real amused laugh. Something inside me shattered. The music, the lights, the perfect venue, none of it mattered anymore. I turned and walked straight to the stage. The crowd noticed. Whispers spread as I picked up the microphone. The music stopped. "Enough," I said, my voice clear and steady through the speakers. The entire hall went silent. "While all of you have been laughing and celebrating tonight, something ugly has been happening. You mocked my father. You laughed at his clothes. You made my mother cry." I pointed toward the back. "That man you humiliated tonight is the reason I'm standing here. He drove trucks through blizzards and worked double shifts so I could go to college. My mother gave up everything, new clothes, vacations, even her own dreams, just to make sure I never felt less than anyone." My voice didn't shake. "And you?" I turned to Ethan. "You stood there and laughed. You smiled while they broke my parents' hearts." Gasps filled the room. Ethan's face went pale. I took a breath and looked directly at his parents. "You spent the whole night deciding where my father belongs. Now let me tell you where you stand." The room held its breath. "Now, you've been bragging about your luxury real estate empire all evening. The new condos in Miami and Aspen, the multi-million-dollar deals. But here's something you don't know." I smiled calmly. "I own 51% of your company." Dead silence. Then chaos. Phones came out. People started whispering furiously. Ethan's father stepped forward, his face turning red. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I sold my tech startup 2 years ago for $87 million, I continued. "I used that money to become the largest private investor in your company. You only ever saw the holding company name. You never cared who was really behind it." His mother looked like she might faint. I continued, my voice ice cold now. "Effective immediately, I am pulling every single dollar of my investment. Tomorrow morning, I will call an emergency board meeting and recommend all other investors do the same. Let's see how strong your precious empire is without my money." Panic exploded across the hall. Ethan's father started shouting at his lawyers on the phone. His mother clutched her pearls, eyes wide with horror. I slowly removed my engagement ring and placed it on the table. "This wedding is over." I stepped down from the stage and walked straight to my parents. I wiped my mother's tears gently and took my father's hand. "Let's go home." As we walked through the silent crowd, no one dared to speak. Just before we reached the door, I paused without turning around. I would rather lose everything than marry into a family that doesn't understand basic respect. We walked out into the cool night air, leaving behind the glittering lights, the shocked guests, and an empire that was about to crumble. The next morning, the video of my speech was already going viral. Ethan's family tried to call, text, even threaten lawsuits. But it was too late. My parents and I sat in a quiet diner at 2 a.m., eating pancakes and laughing softly. Dad squeezed my hand and said, "Best decision you ever made, kiddo." And he was right. I lost a fiancé that night, but I kept my dignity and my parents' pride.